Hey there, friendlies. Welcome to the 18th of February edition, episode, whatever, of the Beer Blades and Bushcraft live stream. As you know, I'm Jess Corbet, and you guys are the audience. What I want to talk about tonight is something that we'd sort of mentioned in the panel discussion about winter camping, and that's your outdoors clothing, your bush gear in terms of what you wear. It was just after that live stream panel discussion, sort of had a few ideas going around in my head, and I figured, why not talk about them? Why not sort of riff off the concept? So before we get started on that too much, I did bring beer because it is okay, that light is going back because that's just not on. Yeah, well, we still got light. We'll just deal with it. But yeah, that one's definitely going back to the store. So yeah, in terms of bush clothes, there are a couple of ways to look at this. You know, there's the usual sort of synthetics versus natural fibers argument, and that's an interesting argument in many ways. Kind of more religious. Hey, Hamza and Tyler, you guys are the first two on, I think. Welcome, guys. I would be very interested to know what both of you are thinking about. Actually, if either of you guys want to jump on, then I will. Then I'll drop you an invite because I think that you guys would both have a lot to contribute to the conversation. Because I mean, as you guys know, there are almost as many philosophies about what to wear out in the woods as there are people out there in the woods. And I can see the value to Gore-Tex and synthetics. I mean, my winter jacket is an Arc'teryx, and I have a lot of synthetic stuff. You know, pants, shirts, yada yada. I mean, in some ways, you can't beat the wicking that comes with some of these synthetics. For me, the biggest sort of example of why I like natural fibers over synthetics is that one that I'm constantly talking about. I'm always banging on about this. I'm speaking from experience here. I'm standing next to a fire, expensive North Face Gore-Tex jacket, ember lands on the sleeve, and I got a hole in the plastic. Secondhand store woolen lumber jacket, like full-on wool, ember lands on the sleeve. I do this and go back to bacon marshmallows. You know, it's a big it's a big difference in terms of what that says about the I kind of don't want to make this too philosophical, like too highbrow. You know, it's the design philosophy. No, it's not that. It's, you know, you spend $800 on, hey Serge, you spend $800 on like an expensive synthetic jacket, and you get a hole in it. Well, suddenly that hole isn't blocking rain anymore. You know, it's not blocking moisture. It's not, you know, there's a hole in your armor, or in the armor that you wear to protect you from the elements. You know, hey Tenenbaum, how's it going? You know, and so that's why I've come around, and it's a relatively recent thing. Like, it's just the past few years that I've really come around to thinking, you know, I'm all about the wool. You know, I'm all about the canvas. I mean, it's expensive to rejig your outdoor clothing, though. Hey, oh, Hamza says wool, canvas, nothing else, especially no cotton. Actually, I wouldn't mind having the cotton conversation. But first, here's what I got tonight. This is the Tom Green by Bose. And there's like your basic Tom Green milk stout, I think, but then there are these like limited edition ones. And this is the cherry one. So I kind of wish that Outdoor Dauber was with us. Certified organic by ProCert. Ingredients: local spring water, barley, malts, oats, cherry juice, lactose, and organic hops. The Tom Green Beer Cherry Milk Stout. There we go. So I'm going to pop this. I'm going to pour it poorly. And Sav's just going to laugh at me. But we're all friends here, right? Simone says he'll be on a little later. He's doing something techie and whatevs. But he'll be around later to make sure that we don't get trolled or anything. I blew it. It's okay. It's fine. It's fine. Now, something else that Hamza did say is that he has some Canada Goose. I will admit that I do like the Canada Goose. I'm a little less into the brand now that it's kind of gone hipster, and there's a lot of like fashion plates wearing the Canada Goose, like fashiony ones. I like the basic Canada Goose that you would wear into the Arctic. Jeez, it's loud up there. You know, sort of what I call the true Canada Goose. Kind of weird looking because it's big and red, but you know, I like it. Hold on a sec. Everyone's just saying hi to each other. Yeah. Hi, Tyler. Got a beer with freaking cherry juice? Yeah, but the Tom Green stuff is pretty good. Oh, as Sash says, it's not 50-50 anymore. It's sort of 40-60 at this point. I'll just pour slowly. But the Tom Green beers are always, it's always a stout. It's always a take on the milk stout concept. You can't really get a taste when you just slurp the... But yeah, so hey, Simone's here and Alain, how's it going? And Tenenbaum says, apparently Canada Goose is last year. Now it's Moose Knuckles, which appears to be the same overpriced idea. Yeah, you see a lot of Moose Knuckle around these days. They're also very warm. I mean, the fact is these jackets, they sell like hotcakes, not because they're, I mean, look, they're good looking, especially now that Canada Goose is getting with the fashion and everything, but they keep you warm. I mean, these are warm coats, you know. Moose Knuckle, I don't think uses coyote fur around the hood, so I think that some people prefer them for that. I'm not sure about that. I'm sort of just talking from like what I've seen around. But yeah, there's a lot of Moose Knuckle around. Does everyone know who Moose Knuckles are? But yeah. But you know, even like that big basic Canada Goose jacket, that's not really a bush jacket though. You know, that was designed, the original one was designed for people living like in alert and places like that. You know, scientists on the permafrost, or people sort of doing an Antarctic, you know, working at a science station in the Antarctic or something. You know, so it doesn't really fit in with the activities that we tend to talk about on the live stream. But, you know, I have seen people with the full-on Canada Goose hunkering down next to a fire before. I don't see it often, but I have seen it. Let's taste this. Oh, I forgot to. Okay, so the Tom Green beer, the Cherry Milk Stout by Bose Brewery. Mochaccino with sweet fruity cherry. I'm not sure if this sounds good or not, guys. 473 mils, 5.6% alcohol by volume, which is technically a strong beer, but it's okay. I don't know what I think of that. I get the milk stout thing happening, which is kind of a comfort zone thing for me. Whenever I pick up a Tom Green, I know what's going to happen there. But like the cherry juice is like, if you're used to maraschino cherries, that's not what this is. This actually tastes like cherry juice. But the thing is, cherry juice isn't something you kick back and love the taste of. You know, it's kind of a, I don't know if I'd buy that again, actually. I'll still drink it. It's not bad. It's just the magic of the whole microbrew world is if you just kind of like a beer, you never have to buy it again because there's all kinds of fabulous stuff out there. So I don't know. I don't think I'll buy that again. Yeah, but the thing that that Hamza said that I'm twigging on is where was it? Because as I said, the synthetics versus naturals, it's becoming sort of the basic argument, right? Some people really love their Gore-Tex, some people really love their wool. I'm in the middle of the shift from loving the Gore-Tex over to loving the wool, and seeing my bank account suffer in the near future because of it. But it's not the only argument there is. What Hamza says here, especially no cotton, that is an interesting statement because I've been looking to decotton my wardrobe over the past several years, maybe investigating things like bamboo and stuff for a couple of reasons. First of all, bamboo is a very good temperature regulator. On a really stankin' hot day here in Quebec where it's like 30 degrees, add the humidex and it's like 45. Man, a bamboo t-shirt will keep you a degree or two cooler than a cotton one will. Politically, cotton is probably the dirtiest fabric crop in existence. There's so much inputs and chemicals and stuff that it's not a very sustainable crop, and you don't need to use it anymore. The thing is, the alternatives like bamboo and stuff, they cost a lot more in some cases. They feel better, they're better temperature regulators, but they do cost a lot more. And if you got your sweet bamboo t-shirt in the forest and you get it torn or burnt or something, I just want to make sure. I have a decent solution in mind for that. Tyler, do you want to get on? You want to get on screen? You want to talk about that? Hamza, linen. Yeah, I love linen. It's one of my absolute favorite fabrics. I love how cool it stays, comparatively. I love how linen looks rumpled, but still looks good, because it's kind of supposed to be rumpled. I think, yeah. Man, Hamza's on fire tonight. Absolutely. So if you get soaked in cotton and it's cold out, you can be in serious trouble. Whereas with wool, if it gets wet, it doesn't really lose its thermal properties, which is a nice. I'm just checking my messages to see if anyone is trying to get on. Tyler. Hold on. Okay. Hamza and Tyler are headed in the right. Tell you what, I'll post the link here to anyone who wants to get on and chat about this, but we're staying on target, okay? We're not getting distracted. And again, I have to say, as I said last time, sorry, but I have to say no gun talk. It's just getting too iffy with YouTube about stuff like that. Okay, Tyler's going to get on. That's good because he's always got something to talk about. Hamza, I saw on your Instagram that you have like a really cool new bomber jacket. I think, guys, Hamza buys his stuff where we should all learn to buy our stuff. Like I'm sitting here with a brand new Fjällräven shirt on. Okay, I'm the worst person to be saying this right now, but you don't need, like I said in the panel discussion, you don't need to look chic when you're alone or with buds in the forest. You need to be comfortable. You need to be temperature regulated, whether that's keeping cool in the summer or keeping warm in the winter. You need to, you need to have clothes on that will work with you rather than against you. Hey, Mike Morton's here. Mike, if you want to get on and chat about this, I'm talking about bush clothes. Sort of going beyond the traditional, synthetics versus wool. I'm talking about, well, I haven't gotten there yet, but I am going to be talking about layering and stuff. I'm essentially riffing off of a few things that we'd said in the panel discussion, about clothes and stuff, and how Martin was saying that he likes in the winter, excuse me guys, to keep it nice and baggy, because what it does is it traps air inside, which warms up and acts as a bit of a thermal control. So just ever since that, I've been kind of riffing off of that in my head, because as I think I've said to you, Mike, I'd really like to shift my stuff, like get rid of the Gore-Tex as much as possible, not completely, but as much as possible, and really sort of start diving into wools and flannels. By the way, recognize something? Guys, when my wife gave me this for Valentine's Day, I immediately texted a photo of just like the pocket with the logo on it. Mike, guess what I got? Yeah, so what I was saying is, I don't live in an area that has a Goodwill. There's no Goodwill in Quebec. I don't know if there's a Goodwill in Canada. We have Goodwill style stores, but we don't have anything quite as good. We don't have we don't have that kind of selection here in Montreal. There's like a charity secondhand store down at the bottom of my street, and oh no, I have to get headphones. I'll be right back. Tyler,
All right. Cool. Wonderful. Hamza kind of said what I was going to say. So I agree, definitely don't wear cotton when you're thinking about getting wet or thinking about going outside. Let's just put it that way. But it's also, a lot of us know, it's generally not a great idea to wear a durable wools against the skin, which tends to be the issue. Some of us are okay with it. Some of us are completely unbothered by the texture of wool and the texture of lanolin, which can be a great thing, but that's not good practice. And the other thing is, against your skin, when wool has lanolin on it, it doesn't wick the way that uncoated wool will wick. So lanolin is that oily texture that's around the fibers in wool, for those that may not know. And my deal with lanolin is, wool is great if it can wick moisture, but all the benefits about wool that we like have to do with having that coating of lanolin around the fibers. So what I like to wear, if I can, against my skin is a mostly linen linsey woolsey, which is just linen, like flax, like raw, flax linen stuff, the really abrasion resistant stuff, blended with a little bit of wool. And the reason you do that is, once you have that uncoated wool blended with the linen, you get a little more wicking properties, but it's so much more durable and friendly to your skin. For those that don't like the roughness of the wool, when you have a good linen will soften up, but unlike cotton, when it softens up, the fraying doesn't destroy its tensile strength or destroy its ability to continue holding abrasion. When linen gets roughed up, it's almost like rough out leather, where the roughness, if you don't shave it off, will actually stay there and benefit the linen itself. I wish my camera was working. I would actually show you guys. I've got a couple rolls of linen across from me.
I do want to say hi to, are you hearing me?
I can hear you.
Okay. I do want to say hi to Avid Outdoorsy guy. He just joined us. Mike Morton is getting his laptop set up, and I'm gonna let him come on. I like what you said about wool, because I don't like the feel of wool right next to my skin, with the exception of merino. I find that merino tends to have a much softer effect. The thing is, what I like next to my skin is stuff like bamboo and linen and stuff. That's my preferences, And merino also has very good temperature regulating properties, which I also like. It's expensive as hell, though, comparatively.
Yeah, merino is expensive as hell, and that's
Yeah.
because it's hard to get compared to other types of wool. So merino actually, I think, comes from a specific type of sheep because the fibers in merino are considerably smaller than other types of wool. So like wool in an Aran sweater, like Aran sweaters out of Ireland, that kind of thing.
Oh, I used to have one.
I have a couple, and you should be jealous, man, because those are awesome.
Yeah.
Nick actually has a big fat turtleneck of mine that she wears outside all the time. I'm currently wearing an Aran sweater. Damn it! If only my camera worked.
You gotta get that working.
I know. But where was I going? Oh, right. So merino is fantastic because it's not so rough textured because the fibers in merino are tiny. And that's also part of why it's ridiculously expensive is when you have tiny fibers, it does take a little longer to make workable yarns and stuff.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Hold on a sec. Absolutely. Absolutely. Mike, with your computer. Absolutely. Mike,
oh boy.
Computer.
Hold on. Sorry.
Sorry. There we go. There we go. I just want to see who's Tyler. Yeah, Hamza agrees with you.
Fantastic. I like when Hamza agrees with me. Hamza
Yeah, if Hamza agrees with you, you can be pretty sure you said the right thing because he's that guy's got knowledge, man. Mike also has knowledge. Mike, you've got some really cool stuff. Just judging by your Instagram feed, and I mean, let's face it, most people's Instagram feeds are not exactly cinema verite, but you've got a lot of cool stuff.
Yeah, I like a mix. Wool is good. I got no issue using fleece either. Obviously not as good around the fire, but that stuff lasts forever. It's not expensive. I have a bunch of stuff from Mount Nakuma dating back to the 20 years ago, 25 years ago, and it's still fine. Wash it, dry it.
Yeah, my only problem with fleece, aside from the fire aspect, is I don't like the way it feels next to my skin because it feels like plastic. Like I can practically feel the pop bottles, and so I don't love the way it feels. But I've got some, if it's an overlayer, I've got some fleece from Mountain Equipment Co-op that's lasted me about the same length.
Yeah, I find that I don't really have that issue, but if I'm going to if it's cold enough where I'm going to be wearing a fleece jacket, I'm 99% of the time wearing long underwear of some kind.
Yeah,
I have some wool stuff. I have some from Wool Power. I have some merino stuff from Mac. I have old polyester stuff from Mac, different thicknesses. So I'll always wear something. So even if you had like a long sleeve T1 from Mac type of quick dry shirt, then it won't be touching you really anywhere.
Yeah, yeah, and that's sort of it's kind of a prereq for me with fleece because I just it makes me snaky. I start to crawl in my skin. That may be a little sensitive, but I just
whatever, it doesn't matter.
Yeah. I'm just making sure. Simon is bringing us up to date where all the secondhand stores are. He says that Renaissance is in some way affiliated with Goodwill, which doesn't matter because the selection still isn't the same.
Do you guys have Valley Village?
Yep. Yeah. There's it's nowhere near me, but there's one in town at least. There might be the one out where Simon lives.
I find the Valley Villages here would be better than Goodwill. I mean, I don't go all that often, but if I do, Valley Village is probably the best place. Especially if you're looking for a wool sweater, there's always, if you don't care what it looks like.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, or a wool blanket even, I'm sure. Because I've been looking for wool blankets. And I'm coming up like bupkis. Now, granted, wool blankets are not clothing for the outdoors, so we'll just skate right on past that.
Do you need me to ship you a blanket?
Shut up.
Do you need a blankie?
I have one blankie, but I want another one for when it's not just me solo in the woods. When like Camille's with me, I'd like to have two so that we each have one to sit on and sort of Because we're getting to the point where it's not just going to be camping trips. You know, she knows how to start a fire without a match. You know, she's aching to. I mean, you guys know that there's an axe up there with her name literally stamped into the bottom of it. She's going to want to start using that at some point. You know, she's getting better with a buck saw and stuff. So I'm trying to sort of build up some of the basics because we all need a wool blanket.
Have you looked for the Canadian military, like a surplus place? That's where I got mine from, $20 or whatever.
20? Christ, man, I spent 40 on mine, and they don't have any left.
All right, listen here.
20 is a pretty good deal. I feel like a lot of the ones that are $20 are pretty beat.
Okay.
I'll check the place by me again. I'll see if they have anything.
Only because I honor the Canadian Kopek problem you're currently facing. I know how it is trying to shop at nice places.
Yeah.
Do you want 100% blanket or 90% blanket?
And that brings up another question, because I think the Canadian Forces one is 90, right, Mike?
Yeah, I don't know. It's some blend. But
I think they're wool nylon 90-10, and that's my favorite version of a wool blanket, personally.
I have no problem with that. It lasts longer.
Yeah, it lasts longer, and it doesn't tend to rough up as much, I find. The whatever, is it poly or nylon? What did you say, Tyler?
Nylon. Poly's okay, but poly is not nearly as abrasion resistant and has very low tensile strength compared to nylon.
Yeah, it's got to be a nylon then, because my Canadian Forces blanket has lasted. Well, Serge knows it's been on the ground every time we've gone out into the woods. You know. And it's funny that I come around to that, because I'm the type of guy who traditionally has been like, you know, all wool or nothing at all, or, you know, like, you know, straight up traditional, even when it kind of doesn't make sense. And that Canadian Forces blanket, when I was in basic training, I hated those blankets. And now that I'm not, I love those blankets.
Yeah.
Isn't that weird?
Yeah, isn't that the way it always is?
Yeah. But yeah, you know, you got to have one to sort of make it related to what tonight is supposed to be about. I don't know how many of you guys used to watch Black Owl Outdoors.
Oh, man.
Yep.
Okay, so you guys might know. Remember, he took a wool blanket and turned it into a cape with a rock and a thong. He just sort of folded it over, put the rock through, right? Tightened the blanket around the rock and then tied it so that he didn't have to be holding it all the time. Do you guys remember that episode?
Heck yeah, I remember that episode.
That was cool, right? Like, simple as, you know, pick something up off the ground and make it work for you.
The match coat episode, that's what it was. Called it a match coat.
Yes, match coat, exactly.
Dave Canterbury did the same thing. Right when they started selling those 90% Italian Officer Rothko repros off of Self-Reliance Outfitters, Dave Canterbury released like a whole series on match coats and using your wool blanket for stuff. Can you get your phone screen to focus in your camera?
I will see.
Because I'm just going to send you a picture of my linen goods here. As part of the business, I had a buddy who wanted some weird custom stuff made for historical reenactment, and I got to keep 2 really big bolts of linen.
Wow, really?
One is 25 yards, one is 18. And they are black and firecracker red, and I'm so excited about them.
Interesting. Yes, I want to. I definitely want to see that. I do want to just get back to the Simon says that Costco Canada has long underwear made of merino wool in season. I'm a member at Costco, so I'm going to keep an eye out for that. Adam Romano explores. Hi, I don't think you've been here before. Welcome. Nice to see you. Feel free to just keep chatting down the side there. If you can really bug Simo, that's a benefit. Tenenbaum is saying, oh yeah, what's this guy's name? There's a Scottish guy with a great series of videos on the great kilt. Is he the guy with kind of the Italian-ish name? Or am I thinking about someone else?
I know the guy you're thinking of. He made his own moccasins out of couch leather, right?
Yeah. That's, but I don't remember his name. I'm looking for, are you sending me to, Yeah, that guy. That guy's fascinating because he really goes into sort of the traditional Highland kind of thing, which is a very different tradition than I'm used to, even though my grandmother was Scottish and everything.
Davi Dozy, that guy.
Yeah. Really great stuff. And you don't tend to think of like a kilt as being a good bushcraft garment, but they wore kilts when they lived with nothing but little huts and fires, so why not? Maybe not in the boreal forest. But, fascinating stuff.
All right. We were talking about something before we got sidetracked? What were we talking about?
Before we got sidetracked by the wool blanket discussion?
By the whole discussion. I feel like we rabbit holed somewhere around the wool blanket part.
No, it's because we were talking about wool. We were talking about wool and how wool is great, but it can feel a little rough against the skin.
Yeah. There we go.
And then, well, no, merino doesn't. And then, wool blankets and so on.
So here's my thing why I like Linsey Woolsey way better than just linen or cotton. So Linsey Woolsey has a little bit of loft to it, more than plain linen. Now, don't get me wrong, linen dries crazy fast compared to cotton. I totally agree with that. But when you use Linsey Woolsey, you have something that's slightly more breathable than linen. Still dries pretty friggin' quick, perhaps even despite the wool. But if you have to take off your wool, you also have something that's, a good compromise. If you've ever worn like a wool sweater with nothing but a t-shirt underneath, the feeling of losing heat through wind convection really fast.
Yeah.
So if I can ever find Linsey Woolsey again, there used to be a Period Fabrics website, but I'm blanking on it. If I can ever find Linsey Woolsey again, I will immediately go back to making my own outdoor flannels out of that stuff.
Okay. Oh Christ! I first of all, it was the period place. It wasn't like Townsend's, right? Was it?
No, Townsend's is amazing though.
Yeah, if I could afford anything, I would. No, I don't remember. I've never, by the way, heard of Linsey Woolsey before, but it sounds fabulous. Oh, what I wanted to say was I don't tend to wear the wool as the outermost garment because I do find that you need something to kind of break the wind.
Yeah, wool will get tore up pretty quick as well.
Yeah, so I like to have a shell over that of something.
Yeah, and that's the one spot where cotton actually is good if it's cold enough.
Just as an out, or maybe even a canvas. I don't know about canvas. Yeah, it should work.
Well, cotton swells when it's wet, so when you wax cotton, it does a really good job of getting waterproof.
Truth.
Yeah, I would I have one of those cotton canvas anoraks, and I don't think if it was going to be around zero and I was worried about rain, I just wouldn't bring that. I would never wax it because it won't breathe anymore.
Yeah, that's the problem when you wax it.
So then I would just go to something else. Like a lot of the fall raven stuff is poly cotton blend, which can be waxed.
Yeah.
Again, very abrasion resistant. That stuff dries quick.
But even then,
it's not a good raincoat.
No, even then, you don't want to wax it too heavy because then it won't breathe at all.
Exactly.
Which reminds me, I have to wax my my Vita Pros, but enough people have told me that the Fjallraven wax is no good that I'm looking for an alternative. What do you use, Mike?
I just use theirs.
You just use theirs?
Yeah.
So why do people keep telling me it's no good?
I don't know if it was no good. Why would they make it and sell it so hard?
Yeah.
It's just wax. I mean, you could use that. You could use anything really.
They might be complaining because it's not natural, but isn't Fjallraven the really strong stuff, the microcrystalline base?
Yeah, I'm not sure. I think it's somewhat natural based.
The wax, I had thought it was based on. No, it's not based on a beeswax, is it? Maybe people just don't like it because it's not straight up beeswax or something.
That's probably why.
Yeah, people are. So maybe I'll just buy it. It's expensive. I'm just checking. Hamza sent me an email with Hamza.
Sasha, you sweet puppy. My dog.
Oh, okay. Your dog's name is Sasha?
Yeah.
Hamza's got some sweet woolens. He's got some LL Bean. Hamza, I would love to know where he's just showing the tags just to show that it's all like legit stuff. I would love to know where Hamza gets all his stuff. Well, actually, he's showing me pictures. There's this wicked huge flea market, a big Tunisian flea market. He's showing me pictures. It's like it goes off into the distance and it's just stuff. If I was to go one day, which I would love to do, Hamza, one day I'm going to call you and say, it's on, man. I would come with so much money just for that flea market. He got a Hudson's Bay blanket there. I want one of those.
Wait, you mean Dauber found a Hudson Bay blanket?
No, Hamza.
Oh, okay. Thank God. I was going to say, if Dauber found one, I'd just kill him now.
Yeah. Yeah. I back that concept.
Okay.
That's not nice.
So I was wrong. Fjallraven is not microcrystalline. It's paraffin and beeswax base.
Okay.
Fjallraven Canada, yeah. Paraffin and beeswax base, which I don't get. Why would they hate on that? Those two are great.
Yeah, I don't know. Well, there's a. Can I start that whole sentence again? I'm like, There's a podcast I listen to on occasion. I used to listen to it a lot, but now I listen to it on occasion. It's called Trial by Fire. It's these two guys from Dublin. I find they're a little kind of too bro-ish, which is why I don't listen that much. But those guys hate the Fjallraven wax because they say, like, you're putting it on, you get nothing, and then there's too much. And they're both on the Living to Learn Facebook group, and I see a lot of people online say things like that. Because I have not yet waxed my my Vita Pros, I kind of feel like I don't have an opinion. But for what their wax costs, if I buy it and I find that these guys are right, I'm going to feel really stupid about it.
Yeah, I've never had any issues with it. You don't have to I generally don't wax the pants. If you do, you could just do the knees in the butt if you're sitting or kneeling. And then that material, if it's pouring rain, you're getting wet. It doesn't matter. It does help. The knees or the bottom, say third from your knees down, if you're walking through take a dewy field, or if there is a little bit of wet snow, it helps. But it helps the durability too.
I think what I would do is okay, we're all outdoors people here. We all know if it's a hot day, there are certain areas that get sweaty and certain areas that don't.
Hell yeah.
I think the areas that get sweaty are where I would not necessarily wax because you need to have a little breathing going on. The bottom of from the knees down, I kind of don't worry about. Mm-hmm. But when you get a little too far north, I kind of want some breathing action happening there.
There's something to be said for bringing your own waterproof seat and not waterproofing your pants for that reason.
Yep.
Yeah, just don't sit in water is a good tip.
Yep.
Yeah, there you go. Granted, if all the duff is wet, again, bring your own friggin' seat. Don't wax your pants.
Yeah.
Because then you sit in your truck and you have butt wax on your truck.
Yeah.
No one wants butt wax on their truck.
Alain, you saw exactly where I was going. Don't wax the crotch. Got it. Good man. But okay, so what I'm wearing right now is flannel. It's a very thin flannel. This is their trekking line. What's it called? The Singy line? Singy? Michael, no, because he's had more than I have. It's like their trekking line, I wore it to work today because it's nice enough that I can wear it to work. It's very breathable. They also have a much heavier flannel for more wintertime things, events and stuff. I have come around in recent years to loving flannel. I never used to like it because I always sort of saw it as grandpa's shirts and stuff, but I love the feel of it. I generally love that it's a really good choice under something lightish on a cool day. but it's not too hot that I get like stankin' sweating like really, really quickly.
Yeah, and a lot of it, a lot of the ones you find commonly are cotton, or mostly cotton. I know that one's not. Even the Canada shirt from Fall Raven, which is fairly popular and quite expensive, there's not a whole lot of wool in that one.
Yeah, it's funny because I appreciate the Canada shirt. I think it's very nice, but I want the granite.
Yeah, I don't think they even make that one anymore. I do have a Canada shirt, and I only bought it because it was on clearance. I think I got it for like $70.
Yeah.
3 or 4 years ago. It's okay. It's mostly polyester and like 25 or 30% wool. But yeah, I think the granite is more wool. The shirt that I wear the most, I have a Woolrich one that's 85% or something, and it was, $100.
Yeah, and I think the granite's back, but it looks like it's not the same blend as it used to be. Because I remember I was like, okay, dude, I'm buying a granite, and then I think I texted you over Instagram. I said, I don't see it on their website anymore. And he said, yeah, it's discontinued. But I think I've seen it on their website again, but it looks like there's a difference there somehow. But I didn't look that carefully before, so I don't know if I'm just making that up.
That's the one. That one has the shoulder.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
that's
Z
nice
Outdoors
for
has one.
Suspenders or a backpack.
Backpack and stuff, yeah.
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 Yeah, they have some good stuff, although I find it's not all worth the money.
Yeah.
Some of the stuff really is. The pants are worth it. They're not cheap, but they're not horrific. A lot of stuff I bought on clearance. Like I have a wool sweater from them that I wear all the time. Again, it has the patches, elbow patches, but it was $200, but I got it on clearance for $100. I don't know.
Where?
There's a company called Sporting Life. I don't know if there's one in Montreal. There's a few around Toronto. And they have it there, and this was a few years ago. They seem to sell more of it now, but this is probably 3 or 4 years ago. And yeah, at the end of the year, they just cleared out. I got my Keb pants for $100. I got
your Keb pants for $100.
Yeah, they were $225 at the time, so 50% off.
Oh, you're breaking my heart, dude.
But yeah, you don't see that anymore.
Yeah. Oh well. Sucks to be me. But I mean, it's let's go back to what I was saying really early. You don't have to have this expensive stuff in the woods. If you have a really good secondhand or whatever a frippery is in English, then you can get essentially the same qualities of your clothes, qualities as in the same characteristics, without spending like $140 for a shirt, $200 for a pair of pants, and that's where the magic of not buying brand new can really, really count.
Yep, and there's even some companies out there. Big Bill is one. They make wool pants. They have 2 or 3 different styles. They have a 28 ounce, which is the one I have, the plaid looking ones. They're very thick. They have a 24, and then they have an 18 ounce merino, but they're all about between 100 and 125 Canadian, new, made in Canada. 28 ounce ones are thick, like they are.
That actually sounds like good prices, though.
Yeah,
that sounds really good.
I think they're made out of Quebec somewhere.
What's it called? Big who?
Big Bill, but the company online, their online store is called Ghostwear, Gostwear.
Okay.
I'm pretty sure they're from Quebec. But yeah, they've been making the pants forever. They're 100% wool and they're 28 ounce. They're thick. Like if it's
could you put a link down in the chat there?
Let me find it.
Ghostwear, did you say?
Yeah. That's why I bought them before last year. -30, it's nothing.
Nice.
I mean, they're thick. You're gonna want to be wearing something underneath.
But like, you can get away with just wearing like long johns underneath, right?
Yeah. So I even bought like some clearance Mountain Kuma Co-op long johns. They're just the T1 material, so they're just a quick dry.
Okay.
So just keeps it off of my. How do I post here?
You just type it in and.
Do I have to go to the YouTube one? I guess.
No, you should be able to just do it in the side of StreamYard.
I can't see where.
Oh,
Okay.
Simone just shared the link for bigbill.com.
Yeah, the prices are on. It's Ghostware, just Ghostware, GOSTware.com. They're $125, and they come in a whole bunch of different inseams and lengths, and they're plaid. So maybe you think that's cool, maybe not. I don't know.
Kind of depends on the time of year. Around St. Patrick's Day, it's great.
Yeah. But for $125, made in Canada wool pants, they're about as good as you can get.
And if I'm wearing them in the woods, who cares? Right?
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
Yeah. Outdoor has a Big Bill wool sweater. So obviously they're not obviously they'll sell internationally. And Simone says that Sporting Life has at least one store in Montreal, so that's good to know. That's very good to know.
I think I'm going to start the religious war on synthetics and non-synthetics. All right, so we all have suffered through losing wool or something we really like to usually abrasion or rot because it is natural fiber. And this is where I get really sensitive about sewing nylon onto natural fiber things that are important to me.
Okay. Like as in patches or as in?
Well, for example, so the old Boy Scout bucket style packs had a single layer of canvas like the rest of the pack on the bottom. And I had one forever ago, and I ended up sewing a bit like a nylon skirt onto the bottom of it, basically, like a little covered the bottom of the backpack in nylon. And as the backpack slowly started to meet its demise because they don't make them anymore, they're antiques.
Yeah.
The nylon was completely fine because nylon never rots ever. And the canvas basically killed itself because it was slightly damp. This is where I start to draw the line on a couple of things. So our canvas, I feel very torn, so I'd be interested to hear how you guys feel about this. I'm always torn between trying to use nylon duck because it's so wonderfully abrasion resistant and rot resistant, or going with canvas because it's sustainable and can be patched way easier. I.e., canvas is pretty easy, especially if it's a plain weave to deal with, because it'll stretch a little bit and work with you. Nylon is very static and won't do that. But yeah, what are you guys' thoughts on the whole? There are serious benefits to things like nylon as opposed to cotton.
So even just going on the patches, I put patches on the knees of these pants just this fall. I bought a really thin suede pig material. I don't know if this will focus. No, it doesn't look like it. It's just gonna blur it out.
Do you want to send me the picture and I'll show it?
What's that?
Just send me the picture and I'll show it.
Okay. Yeah, so I put this patch on the knees, so that way I can avoid it. And it's very, very thin, like a very thin suede material. And it's quite pliable. It'll probably not feel as good on your arms, but it's somewhat breathable and obviously very durable.
Now, is this a synthetic?
Nope, I got it from Tandy Leather. I got a huge roll of it for like $25. You can see the knees, yeah, they're just different colored. So that's
yeah, and you're reinforcing where. Oh, are these the Big Bill pants?
Those are the Big Bill pants, yeah.
Let me just show that again then.
Yeah, you just get them extra big. I usually wear like a 34, 35-inch waist.
Yeah.
Those are 38s.
Okay.
So with the suspenders, I can wear a long underwear shirt and a thick wool sweater and tuck it right in the pants. And
then you're good. And then you're good to go. Yeah.
Looks pretty cool too.
Yeah. Tyler, I like canvas and leather because I'm kind of old school that way. I like the sustainability of canvas, which is sustainable and not, right? If you look at how dirty the cotton industry is, if I could afford organic cotton canvas, that's probably the way I'd go. The longevity of a nylon bag over a natural fibers bag is less of a factor for me because I don't. I don't really know how to finish my sentence. I see what you're saying. You know, my Hidden Woodsman pack would last. Like if I had an Ile Royale or something, I would know that my Nylon Hidden Woodsman pack will last into the decades. For more decades than the Ile Royale would, because the Ile Royale is all natural. But when it comes time to, like, the thing is, if a nylon bag gets shredded, it gets shredded. And when you throw a nylon bag in the ground, it takes a lot longer to disappear. And I will gladly spend the extra money on the canvas bag, knowing full well that if it gets shredded, it will just, you throw it in the ground or you turn it into char cloth or something. But I'm not throwing plastic into the ground. So I'm cognizant of the fact that a nylon bag will last way, way longer, provided it's not getting decayed by UV or something. But the end of life on the natural fibers bag, to me, is far more attractive.
Oh.
Times has just said something that many people will hate to read. He doesn't like the new Filson stuff.
And that stuff, I don't have really a lot of experience with it, but it's fairly expensive compared to these for us in Canada. They also make those wool pants, by the way, in bibs if you want that too, if you want to be extra cool. But you're going to be like 3 times the price for Filson ones.
Yeah.
And they're not as thick.
I think with
Filson's
Filson,
not
the magic
good.
is to find some vintage stuff.
Yep. Filson's not what it used to be. We actually have Bob's Gun and Tackle in Hastings, Michigan, which is very close to me, that carries Filson products. And having felt some of the old ones that like my grandparents had and feeling the new stuff.
Yeah.
So the new wool is still pretty darn good. And I think Filson actually has their wool independently produced for them. I'm not sure about that, but I think that's still the case. The canvas, Hamza's actually dead on. The canvas kind of feels, I don't want to say chintzy because it doesn't feel chintzy, but it doesn't feel bomb proof.
Yeah, it doesn't have the same thickness, eh?
No, and I'm almost wondering if it's not like a plain weave. Okay, quick crash course here. Plain weave is one thread versus weft or one thread in the weft and one thread in the width, I think is the term. Not plain weave is 2 threads going in one direction that cross over one thread in the other, and that's kind of weak. I'm almost wondering if that's what it is because they're not equally flexible in different directions, and they didn't feel good when I tried them on.
Interesting.
But yeah, no, it's funny that he mentioned that. And so about the duck canvas versus normal canvas. So duck canvas is all right. There's kind of a trade-off when you make things out of duck because when you get duck, when it tries to swell up shut and be waterproof, it doesn't do a very good job of that because the threads are ginormous. In normal canvas, you still have a plain weave, but the thread count is tighter.
Okay. It's funny because I think in Nesmith or in Keppert's book, he's all about the duck. I don't remember.
No, I said that backwards. I'm sorry. Canvas, normal canvas is the heavy stuff. Duck is the really fine weave stuff. Okay.
Okay, so that's why he was saying that, to get yourself some duck because it's very comfortable. Incidentally, Carhartt's not made in the U.S. anymore. I think it's made in China now as well. So I'm interested to see. Like I hear Carhartt's not good anymore, but a lot of people, as soon as something moves overseas, are like, it's garbage now. I think it sometimes takes a little time for the quality to go down, but I'm interested to see if they manage to keep their quality up or not. I don't.
Go ahead.
No, I was going to say I don't buy a whole lot of Carhartt, and that's more workwear than outdoors wear anyway. But
Yeah, just because it's made in China doesn't also necessarily mean it's worse quality.
Yeah.
Yeah, those guys know what they're doing for a lot of stuff. So, agreed, I'd rather it was made, this side of the pond for other reasons, but it's not necessarily going to be worse just because it's made over there.
Yeah, especially like I often give the example of like carbon fiber mountain bikes. You want your bike made there because that's where all the best factories are now because we've been having them do our carbon fiber for so long.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm with you. I don't think that made in China is automatically a bad thing.
Not a fair assumption. We're just mad because they took all of our industry.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Which is
Canada's no different.
No,
It's okay to be mad about, but yeah, you guys are right. Made in China does not crap make.
Yeah. I've made in China for the low price that we want to pay them to make it. Tends to shift stuff a little closer to the crap side, but I have some made in China stuff that's been bomb proof. So, I'm not
Made in China tech is amazing.
Yeah. I'm made in China Gerber knives, not so much. But hey,
Yeah.
that's not clothing related. So
Gerber hasn't been fantastic for a while.
No.
And I think I mentioned this last time. Like even cheap stuff we used to be able to make here, all the lawn underwear and cheaper fleece stuff I have from Mountain Equipment Co-op from 20 years ago was all made in Canada, and that was like probably a $40 pair of long johns.
Yeah.
And even just 20 years ago, we could make that stuff here, and now it's
Yeah. Well, it's just the fact is the supply lines are oriented towards Far East manufacturing now. That's just the way of it.
Yeah.
I'm not going to be able to change that,
Yeah.
So I'm not going to spend my time gnashing my teeth at it's a waste of time. Yeah, this knife was made in Australia. That's Far East and to the south,
Far East and Far West.
Yeah, both in one beautiful package. Yeah, so to a certain extent, like to me, foreign made is foreign made. We have all these weird religiosities around things that are made in the same country as us, eh?
Yeah.
It is weird. It is the strangest, most common form of nationalism, in my humble opinion.
Yeah, and
especially Canada is the same, but America much more so. 50, 60 years ago, everything you bought, almost everything everywhere was made somewhere in the U.S.
Mm-hmm.
And now it's not. So there's a lot of lost jobs. There's a lot of sore people. Like even here in Canada, like my in-laws are from Welland, and that whole area was devastated when John Deere left, and the GM engine factory there, and when I was a kid, and people are still sore about that 30 years ago.
Yeah.
30 years later.
Absolutely.
People in Detroit are mad about the same stuff, man. Detroit is I know you guys probably aren't all too America first, but Detroit is pretty much the same crapshoot that it sounds like Mike is describing.
Yeah.
Hey, I thought you said we weren't going to get off topic. You liar.
Yeah.
It's the cherry juice.
It's the freaking cherry juice. I'm finished the cherry juice now.
What did you put in my beer? Anyway,
but it's sort of related because it comes back to Carhartt and Filson's. I think made in Bangladesh. Is that Hamza said? Made in Bangladesh. A lot of stuff is which is just sort of a tertiary part to what we're talking about. I think that I would rather buy something that I know is high quality from a secondhand store than something that I don't know anything about, on St. Cat, like what the British call the high street, I've had really good experiences buying my stuff at Mountain Equipment Co-op because I know that they're doing the homework.
And they'll take it back even if you
they'll take it back.
Even if you tore it up.
Yeah. Yeah. If you walk in and say this was supposed to last forever and look at it, they'll take it back. Now they're in massive financial trouble, so I don't know how long we're going to have the benefit of Mountain Equipment Co-op, but
I think they got too many stores now.
I think they got too many stores, and they've really changed their market too much. But, I mean, that's neither here nor there. It is what it is. We're not going to solve that problem tonight, that's for sure.
All right, I got a talking point for y'all. So most of us here are pretty committed to at least wanting natural fibers, so I'd say that's probably true. One of the things I've tried to do, Jess, you're talking about this a lot. You'd rather pay the extra price or do something else than have to put plastic in the ground. One of the things I've been trying to do with this whole bushcraft self-reliance thing is when I can't find a piece of gear that I want for a reasonable price, or I just can't find it made the way I want it, I try to treat that as an opportunity to learn how to work with those materials, to grow as a bushcrafter, making the things the way I want / need them. What are your guys' thoughts on that? Have you experienced that or tried it? Mike, I know you put patches on your pants, that kind of thing.
Well, I put patches on them, but I was not the one who sewed them. I don't really have any of those skills, and it's not that I have no desire to learn them, but with a 3-year-old, I have little enough free time as it is. My free time is worth more than the money to buy new clothes, so I just haven't gotten into it. And it doesn't particularly interest me. Not that it's not a good skill to have, but
I think where Ray Mears kind of does this sometimes, right? Like he'll have an episode, the episodes of that series where he came to Canada in the winter, kind of thing. Remember they made snowshoes once. They made, there's always sort of a making stuff aspect to what he's talking about, because what he was trying to push is the fact that bushcraft isn't only starting fires and chopping wood and stuff. It's being able to repair your stuff if it gets broken. It's able to carve a new canoe paddle if you lose one. It's about being able to make snowshoes in conjunction with a local native dude. But if you take that philosophy to its logical extent, then it's a lot closer to what the Voyageur, or whatever the American version of the Voyageur were, is that you can repair everything you have. And by extension, if you're really, really stuck, you can probably make the thing. And even in the Depression, right? You have people like my grandmother buying a dress in my mother's size, taking it home, stitch ripping all the seams apart, using her own fabric to remake the dress, and then taking the dress back to the store. Tell me that that couldn't be a portable skill into making your bush clothes.
I'm just pragmatic about it. I live in a big city. I'm probably never going to be living off the land in the middle of nowhere. I'm probably never going to have to make my own stuff.
Yeah, and I'm the same. I'm not planning to. I used to have a sewing machine, but I don't have it anymore. But I still appreciate the skills, and I respect people who sort of take that deep dive.
Oh, absolutely. I just don't have time for it. Is what it comes.
I don't have time for it either. That's the major thing. I mean, I haven't even had time to make the sheath for my daughter's knife. How long has that been? And I don't have the time. Between family and band and videos and stuff, I just haven't had the time. I have decided that it's going to be ready for her birthday or else. It's got to happen, Alain just said something interesting. Boom. I enjoy the outdoors, but if I'm not comfortable, I'm not enjoying myself. So my priority is always comfort. If a synthetic can fill that need, I'm all for it, but I get the footprint point. And maybe that's the thing, Maybe it's... But I don't know. Like, is there any case where a synthetic will guarantee you the comfort that something natural won't?
Footwear.
Yep. Footwear.
Right.
Unless you train it like crazy.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a good point. I hadn't even thought of that.
I actually hike in moccasins, but Mike, you are correct. I was in pain for a lot of trying to train to hike in moccasins. So the section of the AT I did in moccasins, but before that was 4 or 5 months of me relearning walking basically, for hiking underweight, because hiking underweight in moccasins is very different. I was a little pretty much on the head, actually, Mike. I hadn't thought about that. Probably the first thing that's important when you're camping, are the things between you and the ground.
Yep, and just weather. I mean, obviously moccasins are good in the summer and they're good in the deep winter, but there's a lot of in between where they're just gonna have wet feet.
Yeah. It's funny that you were mentioning about moccasins and having to sort of train for. I mean, barefoot runners do the same thing, right? They have to relearn how to run.
Yeah, I guess that's true. The funny thing that I almost kind of didn't believe, I thought it was just kind of like, ooh, we kind of do this. The splaying of your toes when you walk differently is totally real. My shoe size changed.
Oh, did it?
Yeah.
Interesting.
So I used to have a pair of normal bush acres, and they became uncomfortable because they were size 7s. I have tiny little fairy feet, and I'm 6 feet tall.
Wow.
Which is terrible because that's a lot of pressure on small feet is basically what I'm saying here. And they became really uncomfortable because the width was too small. And I had to switch up a half size higher. I literally now can only wear a 7.5 from Clark's in the bush
because
acres.
you've trained your toes to move naturally.
Yes, my toes are splayed out. They are further apart than they used to be. It's really funny. But no, Mike, it was a good point. You are correct. When I did the trail, my feet were wet, and I just kind of had to be used to that.
And that's what I do on like spring through summer canoe trips. Some people will worry about trying to keep their feet dry. I just jump in the water. So my feet are wet all day anyways, but when it's 25 degrees, it's not such a big deal.
Yeah, it kind of doesn't matter.
It's 25 degrees Fahrenheit. It's not so fun.
Nah, you're screwed then. Then you're in what's that, Jack London, to build a fire. Then you're in one of those to build a fire type situations.
Yeah. Yeah, 25 degrees freedom and 25 degrees Canadian are two completely different worlds.
Yeah, different beasts.
Yeah. Alain twigged on your shoe size.
You know what? You probably have stainless knives.
We're not going to start that.
No, I'm just dogging on him. We all love you, Elaine. Probably.
Yeah, he's a good guy. Well, he's been on one of my videos. Got to get him and Serge together on one of my videos again, actually. That was good.
Simone knows where it's at. Obviously, I wear snowshoes all year long.
Obviously.
You know what? That's the only reasonable thing, really, to do. Simone, I think I'm going to go ahead and try that. I'm just going to do snowshoes all year long. It's going to be weird when I have to teach my viola and violin lessons, though.
Yeah.
But no, yeah. The other thing where I think synthetics definitely have a big one-up on non-synthetics are not necessarily what's directly around you insulating you, but what's insulating you from the ground.
Mm-hmm. Before you go any further, let's everyone say bye to Hamza. He's going to bed. Man, it's got to be like 5 a.m. for him.
See Hamza. Wavy trooper coming to see us.
Yeah. Thanks a lot. Have a good night, Hamza. Yeah, between you and the ground is a big thing, because you can really, like, your heat can just leach away, even when it's not cold out.
And you can muck that up trying to be a purist about natural materials. There's a lot of journal entries that I think Townsend's and Son have, or just Townsend's now, I think, actually have covered about these dudes going out and being freezing cold and just dying because they were cold and just, expired from exposure, basically. Yeah. But yeah, what's between you and the ground? I think that's another area where synthetics really just absolutely kick butt. Like ground quilts and quilts for hammocks. Dude, synthetic all the way. It's light and it works really well, and I get that it's plastic, but damn if it's not excellent at what it does.
Well, and lightness really, really plays a part there, right? Because, if you're trying to pack a natural item that will do the same job, you're packing something a whole lot bigger and maybe heavier.
Yeah, I mean, if you're pushing 20 miles a day, it makes a difference. I'll tell you that much. It really, really makes a difference. So one of these things, so getting out a down bag, for example, if you do a lot of hiking, you know how lovely down bags are because they fluff up on their own and they don't weigh a ton and they compress really well. So a down bag that has like a thin waxed duck body on the outside and flannel on the inside versus a down bag that's still nylon, oh my God, the difference.
Oh, that's good to know. I mean, my down bag is still nylon, of course. I don't even know where I would find one that's duck.
I'll see if they still make
Sale.
rifleman's bags.
Sale?
Sale house. Yeah, it's gonna weigh about 30 pounds. But
That sounds about right.
Woods and all those, they have big. Like you're gonna take it in on an ATV or leave it at a cabin or whatever. You're not gonna carry it.
Okay.
Yeah, it comes in like a massive duffel bag, like a body bag.
Yeah, they're hilariously big. But that's the thing. Like these synthetics we're talking about, you really have an incredible. It makes things available to you to vastly improve your outdoors experience that just weren't available to anyone else. Like there are definite advantages to using synthetics.
Yeah, the other advantage is they dry significantly quicker than just about anything natural.
Oh hell yeah, man! Still nylon will dry in 5 minutes.
Yeah. A little bit of wind, a little bit of sun, and it's done. Yeah, it's because they're not soaking it up, right? It's just holding it.
Mm-hmm.
Same thing with a fleece jacket. You can dry it out in no time. If it's completely soaked, then maybe not. But
but if it's got a little
takes a
rain,
long time, right?
wool takes forever.
It still does insulate you somewhat, but it takes forever.
Simone is correct. Natural ground mats don't make any sense unless you have time to build a huge pile of bows. That's, I think, what we were talking about earlier today. I was talking about a project trying to get ground cover in crocheted material, so something you could like go out into the woods and in a pinch be able to repair your own ground mat with stuff. But no, we've done that before. I tried sleeping on a canvas tarp once. It didn't work.
I can't see a canvas tarp insulating you enough.
So you fold it over and try and stuff it full of stuff like leaves and duff and whatnot.
Okay.
And the problem is any dampness at all from the stuff that's beneath the tarp, unless you have like waxed the crap out of that thing to the point where it's like a match coat.
Yeah.
All of that dampness and stuff will actually leach through the canvas to you, and then you are cold and you're wet and getting colder the entire night, and then you just wake up pissed off because you're cold and wet and you don't have a dry sleeping bag.
Yeah, I get that. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. In what's it called, Woodcraft, Camping and Woodcraft by, is it Nesmic or Kephart? I keep getting those guys.
I think that's Nesmic.
Okay, because he's the one who says to bring like a canvas sheath that's open at both ends and fill it exactly the way you're talking about. But I'm wondering if he waxed it or not. Waxed it, like he's still kicking around, right?
Doesn't he talk about cutting down boughs and that though, like pine boughs?
Yeah, I think so. I'm not sure.
Yeah, so when you're taking the whole duff approach, you have to be much more careful. Which I learned it. Oh shoot! It was Kephart.
Kephart, yes, it was. Okay.
So yeah, you have to be careful about the whole duff and things approach because there are dry pine needles, and then there are pine needles that seem dry that are not.
Mm-hmm. And you want the dry ones.
You want the dry ones, dang flub it.
Darn burn it. I'm just sort of bringing up, I think Simone I think he linked to his hiking boots, his all leather hiking boots. Whenever I think about, sorry guys, whenever I think about like leather hiking and stuff boots, I think about, you guys know that old U.S. Forest Service video on the axe, what's called an axe to grind?
Oh yeah, that thing.
And whatever his name is, you got to have a good pair of leather boots. Cutaway shot of his like old time leather boots. And one thing that I think has been an absolute boon to guys like me who slip and fall fairly easily is the soles I wear Merrells. Like the kind of soles that you just never had with those traditional ass leather boots. Like, soles that have some grip to them.
Mm-hmm.
I would not be willing to give up those soles in the name of period correct living or whatever.
Let me see if I can find what I'm looking for, because Red Wing has one in their Heritage line that's got a really nice grippy sole, but
Really?
it's still
So the ones that I wear are Danner Mountain Light
Mhm.
2, something like that, some combination of that. I got them for my 30th birthday 6 years ago. Yeah, they're not cheap, but I've had them for 6 years, and I have them at least another 6 before they need to get resold, and I'll probably
Nice.
have them until I'm 50. So.
Oh, and by the way,
go ahead.
well, I was going to say there's a benefit to leather boots instead of like my Merrells is you can resole them.
Yeah, not all, but yeah, a lot of them. Yeah,
Generally
you pay
speaking.
more, but you can resole them. Yeah.
Yeah.
any Blake stitches or welted stitch boots are amazing for that reason.
So I probably spent $400 Canadian on them at the time. They're more now, but I've had them for 6 years. So do the math already.
Yeah, you're already winning.
Yeah.
There it is, the Wakota. I apologize. This is a U.S. only link, and I know a lot of you guys are Canadian, but
Imperialist Americans, eh?
I'll
They're
smack
American.
it in there. But these are the Wakutas, and here's what I'm talking about. Not only are these soles appropriately grippy, you can actually put any cobbler who will surface Red Wing soles can actually put the different versions of the mock soles and the textured crepe soles on these boots. And
Okay.
I've seen it done. There's a guy near me in Marshall, Michigan, whose name is Louis, something like that. Not important. He services Red Wing boots, but they stock all different sorts of soles there from Red Wing. So all of the work boot soles they have, he's putting on whatever the person wants. So even if they want those really grippy day-night ones, you can put them on these. And that's kind of an option. That's also kind of what I mean by the whole learning to do things yourself. So these are what they call a stitch down construction, which means the upper is the welt. The upper the welt comes from the upper. So you just take the upper and sew it through the insole and outsole, and you're walking on the sole the whole time. So that kind of deals what I'm kind of talking about here.
Yeah.
These stuff like this does exist. And there's a good reason to use it, like you're talking about. Part of your comfort in the woods is knowing that you're doing something sustainable that you enjoy.
Yeah.
How do we get here?
And as soon as you've got repairable shoes, even aside the fact that they're natural fiber, leather, and all that, the fact that you can repair your boots instead of just tossing them, win.
Mm-hmm.
Big win.
Yeah, the boots I wear every day are Red Wing Mock Toe 875 or something like that. I've had them 5 years, resold them 3 times, and they're the most comfortable boots I've ever worn. And they'll go for another 5 probably.
Yeah, I should look into them. Again,
they're $300, but
I used to spend that on Echoes, right?
Mm-hmm.
So it's not out. $400 would kind of make me.
Yeah, I think these ones were $275 plus tax. Some of the other Red Wings get into the mid 300s real quick, but
yeah. And that's probably the upper limit of where I'd go.
Yeah.
I would be pretty confident buying a pair of Red Wings.
Yeah.
If you buy a $150 pair of boots, like just your regular whatever, how long are those going to last you?
Not that long.
No.
It's there's the law of diminishing returns though as well, right? Like, which is why I could see myself throwing like $350 at a pair of boots at that sort of the upper limit. But if I get into $500,
yes, yeah, you're not getting twice as much for your $500. You're getting looks more than anything.
Yeah,
fit and finish, which is not all that important for woods gear.
Yeah. Absolutely.
There's something to be said for it, if you're going to a gala.
All right, guys, I am going to go to bed.
Yeah, all right. I will too soon, but 11 o'clock is coming up fast, so I'm going to stick it out to the end. Thanks for hanging out, Mike.
All right, good night, guys.
All right. See you later. Hawaii Volcano Squad says he heard good things about Irish setters from local hunter friends. I have never bought a pair of Irish setters, but I know a lot of hunting friends do have them. They seem to be good outdoor boots, but they're not really on the natural fibers side of what Tyler's saying. That's for sure. They're definitely more. I don't know if they're Gore-Tex, but they're kind of big, very modern looking. Tyler, do you know Irish setters?
Heard of the brand. I'm not really. Let me look this up.
I think they're almost exclusively hunting boots.
Irish setters. Wow. Okay. These things have a following. My God.
Yeah, they're very good name. They're not cheap. They're not that expensive though. And the magic of them is a lot of them are good down to like -40, which if you're hunting in Quebec, you may
That'll
require.
happen.
You know,
These look pretty natural fibery, to be honest.
do they? I don't know. The ones I've seen have been Serge, good night. The ones I've seen in person have been very very modern.
Okay, so I see what you're talking about. So they definitely have. It's the Ice Trek family. It appears.
Hmm.
And these things, yeah, these are pretty plasticky. Yeah, they probably do their job though.
The magic is the waterproofness.
Yep.
Oh, which Hawaii Volcano Squad even says waterproof. They're not just water resistant. You're dry, which is a real benefit if you're in swampland or something.
Oh, here's the other thing I wanted to talk about that we never got to talk about. So we have these synthetic materials that have a little bit of give and wear in really well over time, but are still pretty hard. Like, so a boot shank, for example, would be a hard-wearing plastic, like glass reinforced Delrin or something. There's a lot of materials out there. One of the things, I don't know if any of you are familiar at all with Bernadette Banner, but Bernadette Banner does historical sewing and wears historical clothing and learns to make it herself.
Really?
And she's managed to build up a pretty good repute of doing things old ways and kind of this weird firsthand reconstructive archaeology, I guess, would be a way of saying it. There are a lot of solutions out there for these sort of issues. So a lot of us complain about leather temper, for example.
Yeah.
So if you have leather that you need to be really hard wearing, there's leather only gets so stiff. So I learned this. If you boil leather, wow, okay. Take two. If you boil leather in wax, the wax will impregnate that leather, and when you pull the leather out, I mean, that stuff goes stiff as a board once the wax hardens.
Yeah.
That kind of thing. So I think part of the reason a lot of us are hesitant about doing the whole entire natural fiber thing is, one, obviously the price, but two, because we don't know all of those old, really smart Depression era-esque solutions.
That might even be yeah. I was riffing on it, but my concept went nowhere fast. Hawaii Volcano Squad says Obenov's leather oil wax. I'm wondering if, like old school, leather armor was boiled in wax. Now that we're talking about it, like the stuff that was molded, kind of, Roman officers wore, sort of. I don't know. I just the idea of boiling leather in wax is like, once you take it out, you probably have to work it relatively quick.
Well, I mean, you could always heat it up.
Yeah, that's true.
There's actually some, I think, some truth to that, at least as far as like lamellar. So we didn't really have leather armor per se, because we could make things like gambeson. Gambeson is just stitched layers of fabric, and that catches cuts much better than leather does because leather's like skin, basically.
Yeah.
But things like leather lamellar, which is leather plates sewed staggered against each other's seams per se, was wax dipped and did a great job. Because it was wax dipped, it absorbed impact much better than gambeson, and was far cheaper than getting something like plate. So they would wear this leather plate stuff stitched to itself, which was really stiff, over top of their gambeson. So even if the cut made it through leather, the impact was absorbed by the leather, and the cut was stopped within the first 3 or 4 layers of the gambeson, which we could learn from, but we don't because we're really iffy and scared of natural fibers.
Right. Yeah, and I like part of me likes the aesthetic of the old school, the natural fibers. Part of me likes the sustainability, which is where we need to move in the future, in my opinion. And part of me just likes the smell of that stuff when it's wet. Kind of reminds me of stuff from when I was a kid.
Yeah, that's fair. Lost my train of thought. What was I going to say?
You know how wet wool kind of has that horrible dog smell, wet dog smell? But I like
but
that
it's kind of
because
great.
because I have good memories of that smell,
Okay, I remembered what I wanted to say. The other thing about these natural fibers is usually when you use natural fibers to make these camping products, they are much more like self-independently serviceable.
Yeah.
You cannot for the life of you service a sil nylon tent unless you A, buy a manufacturer's kit, or
Mhm.
B, send it back to the friggin' manufacturer with a check for way too much money. When you get a canvas bag, though, I mean,
You just patch
honestly,
it.
yeah, if it gets really bad, screw it, dude. Who cares? Grab an old ratty pair of jeans and put a cotton patch on it. Who cares?
Yeah.
That kind of thing. So there's something to be said there, at least for us, bushcrafty people. You were right. Ray Mears was all about the whole bushcraft is not just starting fires and chopping wood. Bushcraft and kind of what we're doing here is much more about self-sustainability and kind of doing your own thing, smoothing it, which I think was also Kephart, actually. Man, Kephart roll. Go Kephart.
Kephart.
But, learning to smooth it, I think, is those things, kind of appreciating the fact that you can self-service a lot of this natural gear and what you're wearing on your body.
Yeah.
I'll see if I can find the Dave Canterbury quote, but he had something to do about, head to toe and self-serviceability, stuff like that.
Yeah. Elaine brings up the devil in the details here.
Cows are too domesticated to care. They just want corn and other things.
Corn and millet. Actually, they're eating like plastic pellets at this point. Factory farmed. Well, it's funny because I didn't want to purely go down the synthetic versus non-synthetic road tonight.
But here we are.
Well, because it seems to be it's the biggest dichotomy, right? I mean, the whole cotton versus non-cotton. Not everyone thinks that way. I absolutely back the idea of reducing the amount of cotton in your wardrobe for some of the reasons that Hamza was saying. Look, if it gets cold, if it gets wet, and you're on a cold day, forget about it. You're done.
So screwed.
I've always loved bamboo for, as I said before, the thermal, the temperature controlling properties, and it's so soft. Like if you get a halfway decent cotton t-shirt, bamboo t-shirt, it's a whole different feel.
I've got bamboo socks. You are correct.
I used to have
nice.
a pair of bamboo socks. I miss those socks.
The only thing that makes me sad about bamboo is when it gets really soft, it's not very abrasion resistant.
Yeah, that's true.
Bamboo will kill itself if you're, treating it roughly. And part of the thing is, if I'm wearing bamboo socks while I'm hiking, damn it, 20 miles is going to kill a pair of bamboo socks. No question about it.
This is why I said I had bamboo socks. I no longer have bamboo socks.
But that's also part of why I switched to wool socks. I've got a friend who's in Michigan, way farther north of me, who's about to send me several large skeins of what they call darning floss for socks. For nice. darning rough patches in socks.
Mm-hmm.
And that's part of why I'm totally down with this natural fiber thing. Is it's really, really self-sustainable because I can darn a pair of wool socks till the cows come home, or until I decide, damn it, this is too uncomfortable.
Yeah.
I cannot darn bamboo socks.
No.
I cannot darn cotton socks because there's no point. Because why would I darn a pair of socks that are going to kill me if they get wet? Why would I darn a pair of socks that are going to kill themselves if they get rubbed on?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I absolutely agree.
So there are a couple of cases where I think the natural fiber longevity does outweigh things, not because it's necessarily a more long-lasting fiber, but because it's more long-lasting due to its repairability. Yeah,
and I would say that because of the socks concept, for me, bamboo is good for like a t-shirt or underwear or something. But anything where it's gonna get rubbed against rocks and stuff, like I wouldn't want my jeans to be made out of bamboo, you know, because I think that they would shred themselves too quickly. I haven't replaced my bamboo socks because I just realized I would be replacing expensive socks way too often.
Simone said something great. I'm switching to wool socks entirely. Simone, it's funny you say that. Nick and I just finished doing that. We started with 6 pair of wool nylon socks that we bought for her birthday last year each, and then we both got two pair of REI merino wool socks. And we are now set that our wool socks are not only fully, like, really easily sustainable for us, but now we have access to them all the time, and it is a fantastic move to make because wool is very comfortable and really self-sustain. I feel better about putting wool in the ground than I do elastane.
Interesting. I haven't sort of made that kind of move yet. I don't necessarily buy all my own socks. I receive a lot of my socks as like Christmas gifts because I'm
too.
that old now. Oh, okay. Forget the last part of what I said. And my family's not unanimous about this kind of stuff. You know, you and Nick, you support each other in this because you're both very interested in this kind of lifestyle switch. Whereas in my situation, I'm very interested in this kind of lifestyle switch.
Part of it was making it known and at risk of feeling like a bit of an asshole, telling people I don't want socks unless you're going to buy me wool socks, which is great because then they buy me one really nice pair of wool socks. And every year I get 6 really nice pairs of wool socks once a year.
Nice.
So there's always that. But no, you're right. It's a big switch to make, though, because when you run out of cotton crew socks, you can't just go buy the $15 or whatever have you pair at the nearest Walmart, or $15 set of cotton socks again. If you're trying to commit to replacing them, and then you start putting a lot of wear on like 1 or 2 pair of socks, and it's very slow, not too pleasant transition.
I kind of feel that to make that transition really work, you have to see socks the way you see clamps, like workshop clamps. Every time you walk into Home Depot, just throw a clamp in the basket. Just keep, because if you buy like 6 clamps, it's a lot of freaking money. But if you just throw one in the basket every time you go, then after a year, you've got a full set of clamps for any kind of glue up, and you didn't spend a fortune all at once. Switching to like wool socks, especially merino wool socks, I kind of see the same way. Every time you go to the store, just throw it in, whether you need socks or not. And over time, you'll build up enough socks that you're not wearing through the same 2 pair kind of thing.
Yeah, and that's my experience. You're 100% right. That's kind of what we did. Like I said, we started with getting 6 pair each, so we dropped a bunch of money on socks because I took her up north hiking, and we were around a cabin, and I was showing her how to, here's how you repair and work with an oil lamp. Here's how we work with a cabin and whatnot. And wool socks were kind of part of that whole adventure. But as things go on, we did exactly what you did. When they need replacing or when you go somewhere that has them, you buy them.
Yeah. Just throw a pair in. It's because that way you're equipping yourself without the hardship of Jesus. I just spent $100 on socks.
Yeah, it hurts. I will say my technique was a little bit different, mostly because we're in college and very poor. But also it felt a little bit better this way, buying things when we needed them. So when the things we didn't want wore out, we replaced them with the things that we did want. I can't remember whose philosophy that was because it's not originally mine, but someone said those words at one point and they made a lot of sense to me, so I've been doing it.
Absolutely.
That's how I've acquired a lot of this outdoor gear of mine. So I told you I have several Aran sweaters. I've got 3 or 4 of them. Here's the deal. When I start wearing out my synthetic expensive gear, I'm not replacing it from the same company or sending it back. I'm spending that money on an Aran sweater.
Okay.
And now I have 3 or 4 bulletproof sweaters that will last me a really friggin' long time. But like you said, I didn't drop a fortune all at once. Instead of buying the $80 GH Bass & Co. 30% nylon, 70% God knows what sweater.
Yeah.
It was like, all right, time to hit up Aaron's Sweater Market. And you're like, whatever. You pay the international shipping, but at the end of it, you're getting gear that you feel good about, and that's
say
improving your overall experience.
Aaron Sweater Market.
Yep. You want a link?
Yep.
Oh God, this poor man. Here's the problem, just whenever I link you to wool things, it's a trap, and we both know it's a trap. And then
I just see my wallet. I'm in no position to buy right now, but I'm collecting websites for when I am. Like every now and again, I splurge on one thing,
I have put it in the chat. So here's the deal. When you go to Aaron, everything looks really, I don't know, cheesed up and very woolly. And you're like, wow, I want that. Oh, wow, I want that. Oh, dang it, I want that too. So I remember when I first sent you the link for Turkey Foot Trading, and you're like, oh my God, so many wool blankets. And then you saw it was a US website and about shot yourself in the foot.
Yeah.
But yeah, the thing is, you're kind of on the head with that. As far as outdoor wear, what I would say is you have to deal with the crappy stuff you bought as a beginning bushcrafter first, not as a rite of passage, but as a way to not be wasteful and teach yourself to be a friggin' bushcrafter. Because what we don't do is buy more plastic to put in the ground.
Absolutely. Yeah, I get it.
You wear out your stuff until it's basically garbage. I'm sure all of you remember the whole you can't buy new jeans until you've patched your Levi's 3 times. You have to take that sort of attitude, and you service your gear, the crappy stuff, learn to service things well that way, and then buy the nice stuff. That way, when it comes time to service it, A, the servicing is few and far between, and B, when you do service it, you do it the right friggin' way.
Yeah. Yeah.
Cyanide is a natural toxin in bamboo. Well, damn, Hawaii Volcano Squad.
Good to know.
Yeah.
That's why he says to boil the shoots before eating.
How about that?
Or maybe just stop. Just stop. Yeah, and in fact, I when I was a student, I patched the hell out of my Levi's. What I used to do was, like if they had a hole, I would tuck the frayed part inside and sew around the hole with like a patch of something really, of course, because, I was a student and, I was reading Jean-Paul Sartre and all this irritating writing poetry. Oh God, I shudder to think of what I was like.
Oh, Captain, my captain.
Okay. And so I would have something really contrasty that I would patch from the inside. So I would have like this round-ish hole with this really contrasty thing on the inside. Whereas people who were like more logical just took a square patch, put it on top, and sewed it. But I had to have this artsy fartsy stupid. But I did learn how to sew by hand. I also learned how to sew by hand while I was in the Royal Canadian Air Cadets, because we had to sew all our own patches on and stuff. But
that counts, though, right? I mean, you learn something important by doing it a couple of wrong ways and then learning to do it correctly. And now, if you have to do it, you do it well.
Yeah.
Ish.
Yeah, it's funny because bushcrafters and survivalists male bushcrafters and survivalists are kind of the only kind of guys who will proudly say they know how to sew. Whereas you get a bunch of bros together, and those guys go, well, sew? No, I don't know how to do that.
Just throw it away.
Toss it. What? You mean you can rewear pants? What? Whereas guys like us who are fairly rough and tumble in many, many ways, everyone's got a sewing kit. A, for emergencies, like they've torn their arse out of their pants while they're in the woods, but B, making their own anoraks.
Yep.
Making ponchos out of wool blankets. I said wool blankets. Making stuff. Because when you get into the state of mind that I'm going to make some of my equipment then the context is different. Of course you're going to know how to sew, and of course you're going to have some needles and stuff because you're self-sufficient. Alain has a sewing box. Absolutely. I don't have a sewing box anymore, but I used to have a sewing box. I don't have one because there's a family sewing box now. My wife does a lot of sewing. The goal of self-sufficiency kind of changes the tone a bit on stuff like sewing kits and sewing machines. Outdoor Dauber, I don't know if he's still around, but he recently got a new sewing machine. He's happy as hell about it, of course, because now you can make stuff that you would normally have to spend big money to get.
Yeah, the potential to not have to do those things. First of all, it's not just the potential, but the freedom from friggin' consumerism. Oh my God.
Yeah.
Nick and I talk about how much we hate consumerism all the time. I had this conversation once before on the live stream, but I'll have it again because it's a good one. There are times when we'll walk through Walmart and I will laugh at a product or someone buying a product and say, like, hey, honey, look, they're buying consumerism. And
Yeah.
almost like, nope, I'm not allowed to say that. I'll find a different analogy.
Okay.
Almost like apes in a zoo.
Okay.
Like, hey, look, the dumb creature's doing something it does that doesn't benefit it, but it thinks it will. That's how I think this whole self-reliance conversation brought me about to doing all the things. Now I have 3 sewing machines, one of which is an antique that I had to, work on myself. It's one of those old cast iron based white machines. One of the first motorized ones. It's got this white enamel outside and it's like super heavy, but I love it because it'll go through whatever I want it to. You've seen my leather stitcher and I know for a fact you want one. Stuff like that.
Yeah, absolutely.
But yeah, it really does change the discussion on what we're putting on ourselves and how we're going about acquiring those items.
I just want to point out what Tenenbaum said because he's going right down the same alley as you were.
Nice.
Yeah. Yeah, Tenenbaum and I sort of had, because I actually met Tenenbaum fairly recently. Did I tell you? We met up in Ottawa.
You got a tent, right, from him?
Yeah, we met up in Ottawa. We went to a really great store that I had never even heard of, but they had Swift canoes, they had Frost River packs. But we sort of sat there and had a light version of this conversation, and like I always say that I will spend way more money if I have it. I will spend way more money on a bag made by one guy with a sewing machine and a big ass, a warehouse full of leather and canvas. I will be happier to spend that than on anything just sort of punched out on an assembly line for so many reasons. One, I love the thought of a guy or a woman, whatever, of a human being holding the materials for the thing that I'm buying and putting it together. Like a human being, positioning this leather on this canvas and stitching it with the machine or whatever themselves. I love the idea of it just moving through that process. I love the idea of paying into a very small business, and how empowering that is, not only for the maker of the item, but for me as well, as someone who will then know that that purchase was appreciated by the maker. I love it for the fact that very often these guys are working through a similar philosophies to mine about materials, about workmanship, about, at one point, making something really well wasn't special. That was just making stuff.
Yeah.
And I feel that if I'm going to be a consumer, I'd rather consume that way. Because consumerism, almost by default, doesn't move that way.
Yeah, no. for real. And the whole, I don't know, it's late. We're allowed to wax romantic about this.
Mhm.
The whole idea of trying to do things sustainably and trying to respect the work that someone does to something who agrees with you on these philosophies
Yeah.
is pretty key for me too. All right, now I'm going to call back to college age just to annoy you. Henry David Thoreau, the
Yeah.
man. The price of anything is the amount of life you exchange for it. So respecting the amount of life a craftsman exchanged to get that friggin' backpack to you.
Yeah.
That speaks to, I know it's important to you, but that really speaks to me because I've done that kind of work and I understand when someone does something at an excellent level. I have so much more respect for it now because I've been down this rabbit hole of bushcraft and self-reliance that philosophy matters way more to me, to the point where I understand a $400 price point for an Autine axe because there's somebody who, dang nabbit, went through the painstaking design steps and processes to try and arrive at something that's new and works really well.
And learned how to do it in the first place.
Yeah, like,
Because you're not only paying for the time he puts into building that, you're paying for the 10 years he spent learning how to put in that time.
yeah, when you pay a 30-year mechanic, for example, for 2 hours worth of work for a job that took him 30 minutes, you're paying for the fact that he's experienced enough to do a 2-hour job in 30 minutes.
Yeah, absolutely.
He's not ripping you off. He did a 2-hour job in 30 minutes, and you need to give him his 2 hours worth of money. Damn it.
Yeah, because the fact that he did it in 30 minutes means that you're back on the road faster.
Yes, precisely, and that's important. There's something to be recognized there.
Yeah.
Oh boy, here we go.
Oh man, I love the conversation that's happening between Tenenbaum, Simon, and Hawaii Volcano Squad on the chat.
That's what I said. Here we go about. Yeah.
I love, boom, right there. And Hawaii Volcano Squad says 100 Chinese children died to make your sneakers. So how much should they cost at the store? That kind of runs into what we were talking about earlier in the conversation, whereby look, the reason why it'll get political if I do this, but the fact is, many people don't want to spend what things should cost, and that's why that happens. So what we're sort of saying here is that Tyler and I would like to live in opposition to that as consumers, as people who do end up buying stuff, even though Tyler makes half of the stuff he owns. At some point, you still have to. We don't live in medieval Europe. You don't. You can buy the leather that you use to make sheaths. You can buy the canvas. You can buy the materials that you use to then create your own stuff. Whereas if you pop 600 years off of today's date, sometimes to get the wool to make the breeches, you had to trim your own sheep, kind of thing.
Yeah, sure.
But you make the conscious decision to try as much as you can to live in opposition to that level of consumerism, where everything is made in a Chinese slave factory. Well, you end up with less money to spend on frivolous things, that's for sure. But it also sort of plays into the idea, for me anyway, that when you're buying, your outdoors clothes, spend the extra money so you don't have to spend twice within like 5 years, kind of thing. I can't afford to go cheap on stuff. Because if this shirt was like, I don't know what it was, but let's just say it was $140, okay? Because I'm just going with what Fjallraven tends to cost. Let's just call it 120, because it's less stupid sounding number. I could go to Costco and buy like a $30 or $40 version of this in cheaper materials, but I'll be rebuying that shirt over and over again.
Yeah.
So in the long run, this, by the way, is the cycle of poverty, right?
Yeah, we talked about that.
End up rebuying the same damn $40 shirt every year or every 2 years instead of just spending $100 once and having a 10-year shirt. in the long run, because you don't have the money to spend right now, in the long run, you end up spending more. It's like buying a house, by the way. You don't have 200 grand, you don't have like whatever, 400 grand right now. So you end up spending 600 grand because you're paying off $1,200 a month or whatever.
Yeah. There's a lot to be said for responsibility and not just sustainability, but conservatism. Ooh, another quote. John James Abaddon. A true conservationist is the man who knows that the world doesn't come to him from his father, but he borrows it from his children.
Fair
Good
enough.
quote. Fantastic quote. Here's why I like it, though, because we're talking about trying to respect the life that people put into these things.
Mhm.
So a lot of us kind of understand. I'll not get political here. I'll just kind of state some facts. A lot of us kind of understand that the reason these prices are so low are because there are workers in terrible conditions who are living in a country that devalues their own currency.
Yeah.
Exclusively to punish foreign markets and steal business, and then jack up the prices in a couple of years so that industry can be kind of fuzzle schmucked in that country, and the one they punished couldn't get it back. Anyway, that's not a sustainable way to borrow the world from your children. That won't last. What you can do, however, is borrow the world from your children in such a way that it pays dividends to them. Buying things that are sustainable and will last a long time and were made well, and in such a way that when you go to buy them or have them serviced or buy another one, it will reap benefits in the world. You're not punishing another country needlessly where no one gains anything.
Yeah.
You are respecting someone's time and building up business that will last hundreds of years.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Anytime you buy something that you know you can pass down to your kids, and maybe they can even pass down to theirs, you're doing something right, in my opinion. Anytime you buy something and you know that there isn't a human tragedy in the production chain, I think you're doing something right.
Ugh, that's a good feeling. And I'm kind of mad that it's a good feeling because it should be what's normal.
It should be normal, absolutely. And it should be affordable, but it's not. You know, if it was, everything I have would be, you know, one guy building something on his, you know, on his own property rather than punching it out of a, you know, standing on an assembly line and punching them out kind of thing.
Yeah, you're right. And it kind of sucks that we advertise things like fair trade candies and stuff like that. But yeah, that's why Nick and I are trying to live the way that we do, because we'd rather do things that way. And it's really hard for us to ethically source things. So dang Freddy Flab, you know, Bob's your uncle, dang it, we're going to do it ourselves instead. Which is also hard, but it counts, you know.
Well, and you guys both make pretty nice stuff too, right? I mean, you're obviously not just trying to do something you have no skill at doing. I mean, you know, your Instagram feed is full of proof that you and her can make the stuff. You know, you're not living with scrappy things in your life because of that philosophy.
I can do it at a commercially acceptable level.
Yeah.
There we go. That's how I say that without bragging. But no, I guess, well, we haven't done this before. Because I'm doing it and I am at a very young stage in my life trying to do it.
Yeah.
I guess, why don't people in the chat ask me the things they want to know? That'd be a fun exercise in self-sustainably building your own outdoor equipment, I guess.
In the last 6 minutes, man, I wish we thought of that an hour ago.
Well, you already interviewed me once, and we did it once, but there's still a lot of questions flooding in the last time.
Yeah. And that wasn't even supposed to be. Like, that was a purely impromptu.
No, and people asked a whole buttload of questions, too. It was fun.
Yeah.
Who wants to know things? 6 minutes.
What I want to know is, what was your gateway?
My gateway?
Into making your own stuff.
Shit, man. Pardon, sorry. Shoot, man.
Shoot.
Shoot, dang frabbit.
Darn, burn it. Before you go any further, you know, in Canada, the word shit does appear on primetime TV. It's not one of those censored words.
Really?
Yeah.
That's funny.
Traditionally, you know, I went to school for this, right? So traditionally, in Canada, you could on primetime Canadian TV, not like an American channel beaming in, but on a primetime American Canadian television station, you could not show a gun discharge, but you could say shit. On primetime American station, you could show a gun discharge, but you could not say shit.
It's funny. There's good reasons for both.
Yeah.
Okay, so my gateway drug was the book My Side of the Mountain, and I still remember this really well because I was
That's a good book.
I was in sixth grade when I first read that book,
Mhm.
and I remember reading about how he did everything in the pseudo detail with which Gene Craig had George successfully romanticized literally every element of dirty, rotten, not very fun survival,
Mhm.
and it was like crack cocaine for my brain, man.
Okay.
It was awesome. And my first thing I ever did was the next animal I hunted, which was a rabbit. I did the hide on. I smoke tanned the hide.
Nice.
And I still, oh my God, I still have it. Oh shoot, I'll send you a picture in like a GIF, man.
Yeah.
I made a little crossbow bolt pouch out of it for
Oh,
a
nice.
cosplay I did later that year.
Cool. Huh. So that was the that was the starting point. It's
Yeah,
funny
no,
that you mentioned like smoke tanning a little hide. What I have wanted to do for years is when I bag a deer, find a way to tan the hide so that I could have it supple and soft, but keep the hair on it, so I could use it as like a blanket when I'm in the woods.
do you want to know a really gross but accurate way you can do that?
Sure.
Pee on it and smoke it.
Okay. Good to know.
Salt
I don't know
it,
if
pee on it, and smoke it.
salt it so that it doesn't go rancid on you before you get it home, right?
Correct. Well,
Um,
rancid before you can get it ready. So you salt it to turn it into raw hide.
Yeah.
You work it open again. You pee on it for reasons, and then you smoke it.
I don't know if I could make that much pee in one sitting, standing.
It doesn't take a lot of pee, man.
No. Good to know. But Wood Pigeon, who sometimes joins us, he had said that they don't really last that long. The hair just starts to come off very soon.
Yeah, no matter what you do, hair will slip over time.
Yeah.
That's pretty accurate. There are bald spots on my first fur as well.
Yeah.
And there's nothing you can do, but keep in mind when people were using furs, they also took 5 or 6 furs a season.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean,
We
a fur blanket
don't
was not
do that.
Yeah.
You know, you didn't keep a fur blanket. You used it until you got another fur blanket, which was like in 2 months. You know, who gives a damn?
Yeah,
That kind of
absolutely.
thing. Hi, Sasha.
Absolutely. Yeah, I know. But like, with bag limits, at least here in Quebec, I mean, I can get one deer per season kind of thing.
Oof.
So
Yeah, I have not that bag limit.
yeah, well,
I don't even know what my bag limit is. Let me look this up.
but like, I would love to, next time if I ever go hunting again and bring home a deer, I would love to do something with the hide. I have no intention of brain tanning because I'm squeamish, which for a guy who has skinned several deer seems like a weird thing to say, but I'm okay with skinning a deer. Opening it up and emptying it has been a challenge. Hey, Dennis, you're in for like the last minute. Tell you what, we'll go till 11:10.
I'll go as late as you want. I got nothing tomorrow.
I gotta be at work, so even 11 is making it a little. But yeah, we'll go until 10 past because Dennis is here. Dennis, we're talking about outdoor clothes and outdoor wear. Right now we're talking about what you can use furs for. Alain says to drink 4 pints before smoking the hide. Yeah, yeah, exactly. Dennis always pushes us into overtime.
My bag limit is 10 a season. 10 a season.
Shit, really?
Yep, 10 private land antlerless licenses per hunter.
Yeah, it's not like that up here. But I would love to, keep the hide at some point and make like I don't know what I would make with that kind of leather. Like
Gloves, deerskin
Yeah.
gloves. Are you kidding me?
absolutely, or moccasins.
Yeah, don't use deerskin for the soles because it'll kill itself. But
Mhm.
deerskin's really pliable and it will take a mold very well. It just doesn't hold it, so it has to be something that's repeated wear in the same shape, basically. Deerskin
Mhm.
pants are super comfy.
Are they?
Very comfy.
So maybe I should try something like that. I mean, I don't see myself. I don't know when the hell I would ever get to go hunting again. We lost the land, and so I don't know. But if I ever do go again, I'd like to save the hide, turn it into something.
There's a lot to be said for doing all the things yourself.
Mhm.
1, it feels good. 2, it feels good. 3 and 4 also the same thing. But once you get down to about 5,
Yeah.
you gain some skills, and I feel like you better connect to the world around you.
Mhm.
People who hunt or at least have hunted and dealt with the animal, I feel like have a much better understanding and a much better respect for meat, or at least an
Mhm.
increased appreciation for it.
Absolutely.
I said this to Nick once, and she was really squeamish about it, but I'm still going to make her do it sooner or later. Anyone who during pan before, damn it, Dennis, that's funny. I told her, I feel like if she wants to eat meat, I want to at least have her be a part of that process
Mhm.
once. Like, for me and my kids who will later come, at some point in my life, I'm not going to let them eat meat and not understand that.
Yeah.
Um,
Well, because so many people think that it just comes from a little plastic
yeah,
dish, you
sure.
know?
And that's, I mean, kind of stupid. That upsets me. That's kind of stupid,
Oh,
People should
actually,
understand
and on a tertiary point to that, the gear that I wear when I'm out is all like uber modern. It's made very soft so that it doesn't while I'm in the woods, but it's that sort of real tree camo and everything. Are you more of the sort of red plaid jacket kind of guy when you're out there, or do you?
I'm a
Do you
little of both. So I'll tell you, in recent years, I've been wearing more wool, and I appreciate it. And here's why: I don't spray scent lock on my wool.
Mhm.
I don't have to spray scent lock on my wool because it already smells like lanolin. And
Right.
deer are like, oh, another animal,
Yeah, I
whatever.
get it.
Um, and the other thing is, it has very little to do with the camo you're wearing because generations ago, you want to know what they were wearing? Twill
Red.
pants
Yeah.
and red. Twill pants and red. So basically, what you actually need to do is shut up and do your work as a hunter first,
Yeah.
and not worry so much about your camo because it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
And if you're a professional hunter, hunting really difficult game, that's another case. But for if you're chasing whitetails and mule deer,
Yeah.
dude, it doesn't matter. Just stay warm and stay quiet. That's all. Try not to
Warm
smell
and
like
quiet.
urine or beer.
Mhm. Yeah. Yeah. Warm and quiet. Which, by the way, is also how I like it when I'm bushcrafting. If like Serge and I aren't slinging jokes at each other,
There's a joke in there somewhere too about warm and quiet.
I'm sure there is. I'm sure I just stepped in something, but because I'm out there not to make a lot of noise. I don't carry a radio out there. I'm not like bouncing around to like reggaeton or anything. I'm out there. I'm listening to the animals around me, and if I'm quiet enough, I'll hear them because they won't be chased way into the back 40. And so for me, the whole warm and quiet thing is pretty important on several levels, whether I'm hunting or bushcrafting. And I tend to be quieter if I'm warm enough that I can just sit there rather than jumping up and stomping around to get a little warmth going. But yeah, it's as I slowly buy more and more of my outdoorsy gear, or acquire some way or other, I'm really trying to get more into those traditional fabrics, those traditional things. Part of it's just aesthetic. I like the feeling of wearing something time honored, right?
Yeah,
you know,
but I mean, the aesthetic is also functional. You
Yeah.
respect it. I feel like you respect an aesthetic that is based in functionality.
Yes, absolutely. And it's funny because I spent years as a designer, and you don't live that way when you work in design. You know, you would think that you would. You really would. You really think you would, because especially in industrial design, like a lot of these guys think very much along those lines, but they still have to make everything look really modern and stuff. But I sometimes wonder if my appreciation for that isn't partly a reaction against what I did for years and years, you know, as a graphic designer and an interface designer and software and stuff. But like, come on, right?
We're better than this, basically.
Yeah.
The one on the left is better. Just
Yeah.
I like
So,
that.
leather, wood, metal and plastic.
Give me my cast iron and stamp steel, damn it.
Yeah. Oh, no name showing. Sorry, Dennis. It's because I had the quote up. It's Tyler Rodriguez. Yeah. I was gonna say you would probably recognize him. You guys probably recognize each other.
He might not recognize me, but I recognize him. I don't put any videos up.
No, but you've been on my you've been like live on my live stream enough.
Yeah, that's true. I've been around.
Yeah. So I don't know. I think we've kind of exhausted the. No, we haven't exhausted this subject. We could do like 4 live streams on this. But it's 11:07. I think maybe we should save some for the next live stream or something. And I have to go and make baby food.
Oof, I forgot about that. Good luck.
Yeah. So to anyone who's left, all 6 of you, thanks for hanging out. Tyler, thanks for coming on and being all interesting and stuff, you know.
Sharpening my drill bits, damn me.
Damn it. I was going to actually, it's funny because I was going to be stropping my blades while I was here. That's why I have all these knives here. I just totally spaced it.
Man, you got to fireside chat this thing up.
I know.
Oh, that's really American of me. Oops.
I got to have a fireside chat, though. You know who does fireside chats a lot is Kevin Callan. He does like his whiskey fireside chats. But yeah, I think I'm going to go. I'm going to do some stuff. I'm going to go to bed. So thanks for hanging out, guys. Thanks for coming on. Oh, okay, Grace, you were lurking. Okay.
Thanks for coming, Grace.
So thanks for hanging out with us, and I will see you guys next week.
All right, see you, everyone.
Bye.